I'm Cheryl Chumley. This is Bold and Blunt, giving you a Christian conservative view of news, politics, culture, and events. Peter McElvenna, I want to welcome you to Bold and Blunt. It is so great to have you here.
Thanks, Cheryl, for having me on. Love your podcast, love what you do, and it's a real honor to join you, so thank you.
That's very nice of you to say. So we're off to a great start. So your titles, you are co-founder of Hearts of Oak, a free speech media alliance, and you also work in the offices of the UK's House of Lords. I know you have a couple other titles. Do you want to run them down really quickly?
Yeah, I've just been brought on with the American Freedom Alliance as one of their fellows. So the AFA do great work. So I've just joined them as a fellow. So it's always good to speak truth wherever you end up.
And you are in the United Kingdom right now. That's where you're located. That's where you live.
I am. On Monday, I was in your part of the world in Texas, and now I end up back home in London. So London's been my home for the last 23 years.
And you've been involved with some very important work, some of which I want to touch on today, and some of which is related to your visit to Texas. Let's talk about what's going on in the UK with the child sex grooming gangs, because this is an issue that has sort of trickled into America's news feed over the years, but it just seems like it gets dismissed. And the reason it's important is because we have Zohran Mamdani, who just won mayor of New York City, and you have some warnings to give America about what's going on in the UK with these child sex grooming gangs. Talk a little bit about your findings, please.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there. You've got Mamdani. We have Sadiq Khan in London,
Yes.
the Muslim socialist mayor in London. And I think Mamdani has seen what Sadiq Khan has done in London, and he will take that as an example, as a prototype for him in New York. And my concern for my American friends there in the Big Apple is that Mamdani is so well spoken. He has got a very good PR campaign, and those are much better than Sadiq Khan has. And Sadiq Khan has got into London because of the migrant vote, if I can put it that way. And I think possibly the same way that Mamdani has got in. So what we have faced in Londonistan, which I term it, Melanie Phillips called it in her book, Londonistan. And my worry is that that's what you will get in New York. And I think a lot of people have made reference to Mamdani's socialist, hard socialist, how far left that goes. I'll leave that up to your audience. But also there's the green element in that red-green axis, and that is Islam and the push that has. And that is also a very big concern, and as big as I think the socialist concern. So that's what you face stateside in New York. We have lived this. I have lived this in London for goodness 12 years or so, since Boris Johnson was mayor a long time ago. I campaigned for Boris Johnson, seems a lifetime ago. So that's what we have. And you refer to, just to mention, the grooming gangs, the Muslim Pakistani rape gangs that we have had across the UK. First came to light in 1975 in a local newspaper. And 50 years later, 6 decades, we have had 90 trials across 40 towns, over 500 individuals charged, sentenced, and put away for rape of white English girls. And this seems to be an attack from the Muslim community, and it's 90 odd percent, 92, 93% of those convicted are Muslim Pakistani men, and the victims are more or less 100% white English girls. And that's what we have faced with, of course, a cover-up because of the concern of being tagged as a racist or Islamophobic. Those two terms are enough to silence debate, and I'm sure you have the same issue in the US.
So I don't want to gloss over this because this is horrific, right? This has been going on for years and years and years. Pakistani men mostly, right, who were brought into the United Kingdom during the open border time, correct? and they live there, and they start these grooming gangs where they target minor age white girls to basically groom them to become prostitutes. And this is something that the government there in the United Kingdom has known about, but has been very quiet about prosecuting, correct?
No, it has been completely quiet, and my anger is against the establishment figures, our police, our children's services, our court system, our local politicians and national politicians, and of course the media. All those have come together and say we simply cannot talk about this, and because it's got a religious and a racial element that cannot be discussed. But literally, it's look, if you face the same issue in the States, mass immigration. If you take people from a culture that treats women differently, that treats those who don't believe your ideology differently, and you bring them into your society, which has the freedom, the democratic rights, then you're going to have a clash. And we in the UK, we have posters up on our, I was going to say underground, our metro system. We have posters up to warn individuals it is wrong to sexually stare at a woman. It is wrong to touch a woman. It is wrong. And we have these in Germany, they have these signs that's wrong to molest women. And you realize what we grew up understanding in the UK or the US as norms for society, norms to treat other people. There are other societies, cultures, and countries that don't actually have that same understanding. So you bring someone into this country who maybe has never seen a woman apart from their family who's not been fully clothed head to foot, and they see someone on a beach. You have got problems with individuals who are unable to contain themselves. And that's what we have had in the UK. The figures are up to 1 million girls have been affected by this. And that was from Sarah Champion, an MP in Rotherham in the north of England, who is from the Labour Party. So the left wing, she's a socialist, and she recognizes that up to 1 million girls have been affected. That was an interview with a Daily Mirror. It was a newspaper about 4 or 5 years ago. And we have never been able to grasp that scale or address these issues. And we still have not seen a single prosecution on one police individual, one court official, or one local politician for turning a blind eye to these girls, for the police arresting these girls for prostitution. The police actually, it will shock your audience, Cheryl, but the police arrested fathers for complaining that their girls are being raped. The police arrested girls as 13, 14, 15 year olds for prostitution. You, a child cannot choose this. A child is the victim, and yet the police prosecuted the girls for being found with alcohol and drugs, which of course were the tools to actually keep them in this lifestyle. And we still have not had a single prosecution, despite the gallant efforts of Elon Musk. And without Elon Musk from early January, we would not have had a US spotlight, a worldwide spotlight on this issue. And I think it would have remained a UK issue.
Okay, so this is horrifying, and I'm sure anybody watching or listening right now, just it's overwhelming how to digest all that. That this is going forward in this day and age in the West, for no less. So I want to talk specifically about the thing that you say no one wants to talk about, and it's the religion, because that's what's going on here. Before I get into that, though, I want to quickly mention to you that right before we connected here, I saw it coming across my X feed, this very odd advertisement for underwear for girls in the United Kingdom. It was rape proof underwear. And I thought this has to be some sort of satire piece. But what you describe, that could be a real thing in the UK. Have you ever heard of that?
The weird thing is we are watching the same posts on social media. Sure, we may be thousands of miles apart, but the power of social media to bring a story to your attention. And I know that was reposted, I think today. I don't know who reposted it. I saw that on my feed. I've seen that months ago. And this seems to be, across Europe, people are hugely concerned of mass immigration. Germany has opened the doors. Sweden has utterly fallen. France is, I think, Paris is about 15% Islamic. Brussels, the capital of Belgium, the center of political life in Europe, the center of the EU, where the EU Parliament is 30% Muslim. Is that a good or a bad thing? Well, it seems to be we have this clash of values, especially how women are treated. And here in the UK, we've got, just to overwhelm you with information, but we have 85 Sharia courts operating in the UK where women are supposedly not compelled to be part of that. But we have communities, Islamic communities, where women, because they don't speak English, therefore they don't have access to society outside those communities. And these women live in 21st century UK in the middle of London, a progressive city supposedly, but really they lived in 7th century Arabia. Still, they live by the codes 1400 years ago that Islam had in Saudi Arabia. And they're held within that because of the lack of speaking English, they have no concept, no clue, no understanding that there is a world out there. And when you hear of these women being abused, the media and some progressive politicians say, well, they can phone the police, they can phone 999, they can actually get help. Really? Do you think these women have any concept that there's a world outside their communities? They literally don't. They are clothed in head to foot. They are literally physically cut off from the world they live in through their clothing, through their language, through the culture. And they are there to raise the children where the men go out. And this is not the world I want men and women to grow up in. I know it's not the world that you want in the US. And sadly, that we're seeing these changes in our ghettoized communities where we see people completely cut off. No integration, but ghettoization. And that is really the huge concern we have. And the post, I don't know whether the post is 100% accurate or not, but it fits with women having to protect themselves from a culture, a religion that sees them as very different and doesn't see them as equal, which we see in Sharia courts, where a woman has half or a quarter of the value in a court in terms of divorce settlements, in terms of access to children or finance. This is wrong. And yet we in the UK sadly have accepted that as part of our legal system. And I'm just back from Texas, and in Irving, they have two Sharia courts operating. One of them has had 200 cases in the last year. The other one has had 100 cases in the last year. So for all the talk on no Sharia in the US, it is happening just under different ideas and concepts and names.
So let's just finish up with that because that really brings it home to America. Years and years ago, we started hearing about no-go zones in the United Kingdom. And a couple of congressional members here even talked about it. And then they were quickly shut down in the press as being conspiracy theorists. There's no such thing as Muslim no-go zones, Muslim communities where those of different faiths can't enter and the Constitution isn't upheld and so forth here in America. And from that now, as you mentioned, we have in Texas this battle going on with the Islamic centers and the creation of Muslim dominant communities where the Constitution may not guide the governance. So talk about quickly what you saw in Texas and the warning for Americans who think no such thing happens in America.
Well, I wish it weren't happening. And I think my fear is that those in the US, especially with somewhere like Texas, think it surely cannot happen here. We are Texans. There's no way that this could happen here. But freedom has to be fought for every single day. Just because you've got your 250 years of history, Britain has a few years extra on that. But that doesn't mean there's any guarantee going into the future. And I know that a number of your legislatures, especially in Texas, have spoken up. I've seen Chip Roy speaking up regularly. I've seen Beth Van Doon speak up regularly, both from the House of Representatives there in Texas. I know that Senator Parker, I've seen what he's put out as the majority leader in the Texas House. So you've got some very good voices, and your Attorney General has spoken up on this. Your governor has spoken up on this. So you've got strong voices speaking up. And because of that, I think there's actually hope. I went to the US and I had done my UK research. Then, before I spoke to many people, I did my research on Texas and was blown away because Texas is about to pass California as having the most mosques in the US. It's about to hit 500 in the next 2 to 3 years. It will be number one for mosques. It's got the fastest halal growing food market in the US. I mean, Dallas has had a 20% growth in halal food last year. So there are areas where this is hugely concerning, but there does seem to be the political pushback. There's the awareness, and part of that is Epic City actually coming. And I think there's a silver lining in what has happened there, which has just been renamed. I think 3 days ago, they resubmitted an application and they called it the Meadows, which sounds beautiful, sounds lovely, sounds peaceful, and very different from Epic City, yet is the same idea, the same application, but just under a different name. But I do think, from coming away from Texas, 4 days in Texas, I do think that Texas legislatures are more aware of what is happening, and thank goodness for Paxton there, who has really highlighted this issue. And for Chip Roy, I think put in legislation only days ago on curtailing that rise of Islam in Texas and asking questions whether it's compatible with the freedoms you have. So I went to US concerned, and I came back, I think, more hopeful that there is pushback. But everyone needs to play their part in standing up for US values of freedom and what that means to the impact and push in of Islam.
And just last question, Peter, and then I know we have to wrap. But, in America, we have the First Amendment, we have religious freedom, freedom of assembly, free speech enshrined in our governing documents. And so the left, Islam, Muslims, radical Islamists have very cleverly twisted that to get a foothold in America. What is your advice from UK with a different governing structure, but I'd like your advice just the same to Americans who want to push back on this growth of Islam and mosques and Islamic centers in America, but not lose our cherished First Amendment freedoms?
Well, I always say that the First Amendment is only valued if the courts back it up. And we saw during the Obama or the Biden regime, let's say that, I can say that as a non-American, that actually, if you do not have the courts backing up your ability to speak freely as Americans, then you do not have that free speech. And no one wants to actively use the Second Amendment to back up the First. We pray and hope that the systems that you have in place back up your freedoms. We don't have a First Amendment. We certainly don't have a Second Amendment. So we don't have that inbuilt protection of freedom of speech. And my concern is that different Islamic groups use the freedom of religion to push Islam. But I would say that why should religion have any place in your schools? And there are, I think, 300 K3 schools in America which are Islamic. In the UK, every mosque has a madrasa attached to it, which is Islamic teaching, children learning the Quran by rote. I don't think that really should be sponsored or approved by the government. So we have all these elements. We have a clash of economic jihad in terms of halal and Sharia finance, which is growing. But we also have another part of that, which is the cultural fight and battle. And I think that in the US, you have to make a stand that actually the way that Islam treats those who are not part of it, because it is a supremacist ideology, it's a missionary religion, just like Christianity. But it does not spread the same understanding of peace, of acceptance, of love, of treating your neighbor as your own. It does not have that same thinking within it. And I do believe that politicians are waking up, they're aware of that. And I do think you can make a distinction between, certainly in your educational system, of Islam having a part to play. I don't think that should be done. I don't think the state should be funding it. And I think there needs to be questions asked about halal food in schools, in prisons, in hospitals, in those public institutions. And there has to be questions asked about the rise of Islamic finance, which is a more economic issue, but the questions need to be asked. But I do think in the US, you're asking the right questions. I just hope it is loudly enough that those questions are being asked to actually hold back this Islamization that you're seeing, just as we have seen in the past in the UK and Europe.
And some people might say, some people have said that Islam is not so much religion as a governing structure, even leaning toward more cultish in scope. So that's certainly a discussion I would love to have with you on a different day. But in the meanwhile, Peter McElvenna, I want to thank you so much for the work you do and for taking time from UK to speak with me on Bold and Blunt. Thank you so much.
No, thanks, Cheryl. There's always so much to talk about. It's always an honor to join you. So thank you.
Thank you.